call.
We can do that.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. I'm new at this. Okay. Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Present.
Member Dugan?
Present.
Member Gately?
Present.
Member Pena?
Present.
Member Reed?
Present.
Member Satterwhite? Absent. Mayor Nicholson? Absent.
Could we please stand to salute the flag?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And could we stay standing for a moment of silence in memoriam of Anna Cheever, retired paraprofessional on September 13th, 2024. Thank you. Can we have the minutes, please? Motion for the minutes.
Make a motion to move forward the minutes for policy subcommittee meeting on September 10th, 2024.
Second. Oh, sorry.
We're gonna do them all.
All right.
Personnel subcommittee meeting on September 12th, 2024, and the 13th regular meeting on September 12th, 2024.
Roll
Second.
call. Oh, sorry.
Second.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Member Reed?
Yes.
Member Satterwhite? Absent. Mayor Nicholson? Absent.
No appointments. No appointments.
No appointments. Could we have the superintendent, the presentations?
Good evening, everyone. We'll move to the first presentation. Dr. Jennifer Shorter is going to review with us tonight our MCAS accountability results.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
No, we don't have a clicker. I'm going to press for you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for your time. This time last year, I think it was a little bit later, but we went to through a very detailed overview of the accountability framework. And hopefully you remember all the fun details behind it, but just in case, I do have a few highlights as a refresher for you before we dive into the data. If you can click to the next slide, please. So this presentation really twofold is to understand the district performance on DESE's accountability framework and how we performed as well on our district goals that we set internally last year, and then also provide an overview of our assessment data to identify some trends and highlight opportunities for growth, but also highlight some of our areas of strength as well as a district. So I always use this slide whenever I'm talking about data. And just a friendly reminder that this isn't just about report card. When we're talking about data, we use it as our roadmap to set the direction for us. And thinking about that it's not just here to present data. We're not here for what you may frame as analysis paralysis, but really thinking about how we use data to aim towards equitable and excellent outcomes for all students, not just some, not just for some groups, but really all of our students. And not just looking at the data, reflecting on it, but using that data to take action. So just grounding our conversation in that today. So in looking at the DESE accountability framework, the DESE accountability framework is compiled of multiple components, which includes achievement, which oftentimes we refer to as meeting expectations or exceeding expectations. What percentage of our students are proficient? We talk about growth, how our students have grown from year to year. And then high school completion. In high school completion, we have multiple factors that include our 4-year graduation rate, which is actually delayed until I think it's January, because they're still calculating and using some of the summer numbers as well to calculate that graduation rate. We look at the extended engagement rate and also the annual dropout rate are all calculated when we're talking about high school completion. And then you move into progress towards English language proficiency, which is how our multilingual learners performed on the Access WIDA assessment. And then finally, we have some additional indicators, including chronic absenteeism and advanced coursework. And so as you look at that data within the DESE accountability framework, you'll see different comparison groups. And so just to spell it out, you have your non-high school, which is K-8, and then you have your high school, which is 9 through 12. And so elementary school is not being compared to a high school. And so you have those distinctions. We look at two groups, particularly at the high level in the framework, which is our all students group for the non-high school, our lowest performing group for the non-high school, and then you do the exact same thing for the high school students as well. I will say that one difference, not a small, but one difference is last year they did not calculate the lowest performing group for high school, but you will see that calculated this year. So this is available in your presentation if you have a challenge seeing the screen. But it's also, this is now publicly available as of Tuesday on DESE's website. And I'm just gonna start from top to bottom. You see the two green circles at the top. To the left, the green circle represents our non-high school data. And to the right is our high school data. And then within that, you'll see two major categories that I already spoke to about your all student group and your low performing student group. I use some symbols. You'll see the different color shadings for the groups that I just spoke of, the components of the DESE framework, which includes achievement, growth, high school completion, and so forth. When you look specifically at the light blue for our achievement, you see the red circle. So we actually, this is 2023 data. So I'm gonna take us back a little bit to focus on our 2023 data before we go to 2024. So you see the red there because we did not receive any points in our proficiency last year in achievement as a district. In growth, you see that we received 4 out of 8 points. High school completion. If you shift over to the right, because that left side is K-8, so that's where the arrow is pointing you, the second blue arrow, you'll see that we received 4 out of 8 points. And if you can give me a second, I'm pulling up the PowerPoint because I can barely see it from here.
You're looking at the lowest performing next, because it's 4 of 8.
Thank you. And then when we look at our progress towards attaining English language proficiency, we received 1 out of 4 points in both the non-high school and high school. We received all 4 points for chronic absenteeism, which basically means that we reduced our chronic absenteeism met and or exceeded our target. But you'll see that we did not receive any points last year. And when I say last year, I mean 2022-23, the previous school year. We didn't receive any points for advanced coursework. And so they do some calculations and weightings, and so that brings you down to our annual criterion reference target of 34% in 2023. And so of grounding us in this and thinking about, as we look at our 2024 data, that we have made some progress in some of those different areas. So the stars actually indicate areas where you see where we actually improved as a district, and I'm just gonna not go bottom to top to bottom like I did, but really focusing on those areas where we showed some growth. As you previously saw, we didn't receive any points in 23 for achievement, and this year we received 4 out of 12 points. You'll also see that in the lowest performing group for our high schools, again, that wasn't reported last year, but we received 3 out of 8 points. You'll also see that in English language proficiency for high school, we received, I think it was last year, we received 1 out of 3 points. This year we received 3 out of 4 points. And then also for advanced coursework, we received 2 out of 4 points this year as opposed to 0 out of 4 points last year. So highlighting those areas of where we did see some demonstrated growth. And you'll see the blue arrows for high school completion and progress towards attaining. Just overall, we're in the same place, or we're waiting on additional calculations, and this is just the opportunity for growth overall as a district. Next slide. So on the next slide, what you're looking at is our overall progress towards improvement targets and how DESE weighted it. So last year was a single year calculation, and what you'll see is they use a cumulative formula to calculate our criterion reference target percentage, which is how much progress we made as a district. Before we jump to that cumulative, though, I do want to acknowledge where you see we had 34% towards our targets in 2023, and in 2024 we have 55%. And so when you average those,
We just,
2023,
for 1 second.
so of not acknowledging more than 20% growth when we look at our overall target percentage as a district. And so in 2023, they weighted that at 40%. It did work to our advantage where we have more weight, 60% at this year where we performed better, our most recent year. But they averaged that again into a cumulative, so that brought us to 46%, which is moderate progress towards our targets. So, I'm sorry. So again, just before we look at our individual schools, to recap where we demonstrated improvement, we received points in ELA and math achievement, high school growth, English language proficiency specifically for high school, and also in our advanced coursework, we received points this year. Our opportunities for growth, high school completion, and English language proficiency non-high school. So these are our percentile rankings. You wouldn't normally see this, but it was just a easier way to break it up as to elementary versus our secondary schools. There's some color coding going on here, where you see two colors of green, two shades of green. The light green represents our schools that were in 2023 identified as requiring assistance. Either they were in the bottom 10% of schools across the Commonwealth, and or they were identified as in need of support for a focus group. And so that means that there may been a significant gap between all students and students with disabilities. And so you should hopefully be able to see that there are 3 schools that are highlighted in a light green that are no longer identified as requiring assistance by the state. And those 3 schools are Druids Elementary, Harrington Elementary, and Hood Elementary. And you can see not only are they no longer requiring assistance, but they did make some gains. As you look at Druids, you see that their 2023 ranking to 24, they moved from they moved from 19 to 23, which showed improvement of 4 points. Harrington moved from 8 to 11, which was improvement of 3. And then you see Hood that moved from
9 to 20.
Okay, y'all want to say that again? 9 to 20 with an improvement of double digits. And so
this evening, I did ask, before Dr. Shorter continues on with the next screen, I did ask Jessica Cuomo, could you please just stand up for us? Congratulations. We want to celebrate success of all the students at Hood. Patty Hebert for Druids. And then we have Lisa Jussom, I know is back there for Harrington. Congratulations, everyone.
And so you will also see in dark green, these are additional schools that improved in their percentile ranking amongst other schools across the Commonwealth. And so there are 12 schools total that improved in their percentile ranking, but that also includes the 3 schools that are no longer identified as in need of assistance. I do want to take a moment, I wouldn't normally, but I do want to take a moment to just highlight those particular schools. Aborn Elementary, Shoemaker Elementary, Cobbett Elementary, Lincoln Thompson, Sewell Anderson, Tracy, and Washington Elementary. So these are our secondary schools, percentile ranking, the same color coding following here. We did have 2 of our high schools to improve in their percentile ranking, and that is Classical High School and Lynn Vocational Technical Institute as well. You may notice that a couple of schools are not on the list because they do not receive percentile rankings for one reason or another by DESE. And that is FECTO, Virginia Barton, and also FDCA, Frederick Douglass, and Fallon. Now on to MCAS. So we're going to start with ELA. What you'll see here is a lot of data, but I'll walk you from left to right, top to bottom. And then there's not only just the 23-24 data, you'll also see some trends from the previous school years as well. But I'm going to speak specifically to our 23-24 data. You'll see that 18% of our students were meeting and exceeding expectations, which takes us back to that achievement measure. Although it was 18%, that was a slight decline of 4% from the previous school year. However, we did see some slight growth when you look over to the right in our overall SGP. And so as you look at our trends, you'll notice our trends, the district is represented in the kind of turquoise blue. And you can look at the chart in the middle that's color-coded red, gray, blue, and dark blue. That shows our percentage of students at each proficiency level for each school year for the past 5 years.
Do you want me to go back?
This is MCAS ELA for our elementary schools. So that first slide was for overall. If you break it down by elementary schools, you see 50% of our students were meeting and exceeding expectations in ELA in the elementary grades, K through 5. That was a 5% drop from the previous year and a slight drop in the growth overall. And again, the same graphs are represented on each of the slides, or the overall, elementary, and secondary. So you can look at those trends in time, but also the percentage of student at each proficiency level. MCAS ELA at the secondary level, 21% of our students were meeting and exceeding expectations, which is a difference of 3% from the previous school year. However, we did see more growth. We increased by 1.8% in the 23-24 school year, landing us at a 46.4 SGP for our secondary schools in ELA. Shifting into math and focusing on our overall performance as a district across all grades, 15% of our students met and exceeded expectations. That was the same as our performance in the previous school year. However, we did see more growth in math than we did see in ELA, with an increase of 2.8 percentage points for student SGP at 45.3%. On the next slide, we'll see MCAS Math Elementary. 16% of our students were meeting and exceeding expectations with an increase of 1% from the previous school year, and also an SGP of 48.1. I can't see the change from the previous school year because my drop down is blocking that. But there is a slight uptick. For our secondary schools and math, 14% of our students are meeting and exceeding expectations with a slight decline of 1%. However, again, we see that growth for our secondary schools with an increase of 2.4%, landing us at a 43.9 for SGP. MCAS Science is where we performed best as a district. Overall, we saw 23% of our students meeting or exceeding expectations with a 2% increase from the previous school year. You won't see growth for science because it's only tested in 5th, 8th, and 10th grade, so it's not calculated. We saw double-digit gains in science proficiency for our elementary schools, where we increased by 10% from the previous school year in proficiency, landing us at 29%. And for our secondary schools in science, 20% of students are meeting or exceeding expectations with a slight decline of 1%. And so you do have more details to look at as well in these charts. I hit the high points specifically, but I'm going to recap basically what we just saw in the presentation. We reduced the number of schools requiring assistance from 14 to 11 in one school year. This is the first year since the pandemic that we've shown overall improvement in science proficiency, including that 10% increase for K through 5, a 3% in high school. However, we did notice a decline in middle school by 6% for science. Math results showed a slight improvement in K through 5. There was no change in high school with a slight decline in middle school. And ELA proficiency declined for K-8 while our high school performance remained steady. One of the things that was noteworthy is when you think about our different student groups, you often see that the identified group, whether it's homeless students, ill students, or students of color of different races, are often times identified as performing lower, or there's a gap in those groups. And so it's noteworthy to call it out that actually our students on a 504, relatively speaking, they actually perform slightly higher than their peers. And so, however, it's like you're recognizing that trend that they're performing higher. They need to be growing at a faster rate, and they are growing. But at the same time, there's still opportunity for additional supports to make sure that all of our students are moving in the right direction. And the last thing that I didn't really call out, but I did, that we did exceed our target in chronic absenteeism for 7 out of 11 reportable student groups. And I say reportable because if the number is below a certain number, then it's not reported in our accountability framework. So now shifting out of our DESE accountability framework into our district goals that we have for the 2023-24 school year, just to identify maybe some slightly different color coding than what you did see. Whenever you see a red dot, that means that we declined. And a decline can be that the number actually went up. And so let's take, for instance, if chronic absenteeism went from 28 to 30%, that's a decline. So of just paying special attention to what decline might actually be indicating. Blue means that we improve, but we did not meet our target. And then green means that we met our target. The numbers in parentheses indicate how many of our goals fall into each category. So we had 2 goals to decline, 6 improved, but did not meet our target. And then there were 3 where we met our target.
6.
So just a little orientation. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. The first column is the actual goal, as stated. The second column is our status indicator, the colors that we just went over. The third column, goal status, is whether it declined, improved, or we actually met it. And then where were we in 2023? And based on that increase or decrease, what was our desired goal? And then that final column is where do we actually land for the 2024 school year? And so I'm not going to read each one individually. However, you can see that the first 2 goals specific to WIDA access and suspension rates, that we actually declined in those 2 areas. We improved for our regular attendance in 6 through 12, and then also regular attendance for all students. And we met our goal to increase the percentage of underrepresented groups among educators by 2%. On the next page, you'll see that we improved with 3 of our goals. We did not meet what we intended to meet, but we did show improvement. That's in growth, SGP, for all grades across ELA, and increasing access for advanced coursework for our economically disadvantaged students, whether it was in dual enrollment, AP, or STEM courses. And then finally, for the 2 goals that we met our goals for math and SGP and grades 3 through 8, and also our goal for SGP and grade 10 for math as well. And that is all I have for you today. Does anyone have any clarifying questions?
Start with Member Dugan, and we can work down.
Thank you. And thank you for the presentation, Dr. Shorter. Very informative. Just a quick clarifying question. The scaled score, the benchmark, or to be meeting or exceeding, is it 500? Right?
It is 500.
It's 500.
For meeting.
For
Yes.
meeting, okay. So that means if you look at our scores, I mean, 479, 480, 478, our average scores, they're all ranging, hovering around 480. We're not that far away. So I guess that's a positive thing to take away as well. It's something I noticed, so.
Yes, and that's one of the strategies that we are hoping to be able to do, or will be able to do, and are already doing, is identifying those students who are on the cusp,
Cusp, yeah, that's the next
of
thing I was gonna say,
within
yeah.
10 points or so, and how can we really support those students in achieving their goals, but not just in achieving their goals, engage them in those conversations, engaging like their teachers and the school leaders in those data conversations, so that there is that alignment across around and understanding, shared understanding that this is the goal,
Right.
and that all of our students can meet those expectations.
So our teachers have gotten this data, and I'm assuming,
They have access
I know
to the
personally,
data.
I've done mine, and yeah, so,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
Member Dugan, if I can elaborate on that response, Dr. Shorter and the data team operationalized a data dashboard, and we invested in Open Architects, which is essentially the same software. It's powered by Power BI, which is Microsoft, right? It's a statistical software suite, and what it does is it gives us all of the details of not just MCAS, but the ability to upload our own assessments,
Okay.
so that we can continue to track the progress of the standards. And it breaks it down by school so that principals are able to work with their teachers. And it also gives teachers the ability to see their own students for each assessment.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So they're able to do differentiated instruction. They're able to, really customize what we're doing and focus, link back to that concept of universal design learning that we had as a goal for many years. But when you don't have that individualized data, it's very difficult for a
hard to do.
teacher
Yeah.
to actually do the planning around the instructional delivery.
Right.
So we do have that now.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That's great, yeah.
Member Bennett, did you? No, Member Reed?
Thank you, Dr. Shorter, and a lot of encouraging data here, and it's a testament to everyone's hard work, so it's awesome. Just a technical question. Can you explain again the criterion reference target percentage that we talked about, the progress towards the improvement targets?
Actually, yes.
I'm just a little confused.
It's okay. It's a complex. If I could pull it back up from the previous year. And so
I
you're
assume
categorized based on the number of points that you receive in each of those categories.
Yeah.
And so it can show, like right now, we're showing moderate progress. If I look back at last year, you can show that we were in a band lower than that, but you could also be making substantial progress. And so when you look at the schools that are identified as well, if you look on the public site, you'll see that they also receive those indicators as well as to how did they perform on their targets. The DESE sets targets around chronic absenteeism, achievement. They don't set specific targets for growth. They set specific targets for your individual student groups, including low income or different various groups, including the lowest performing student group. And so those calculations all roll up into how they're weighted in the different categories. You'll see that, take for instance, the achievement measures, they're worth a total of 12 points, whereas growth is only worth an actual 8 points for the non-high school. And they're weighted at 60% and 20% respectively for the non-high school, but there's a slightly different weighting at the high school level of 40 and 20%. And so they take all those, the points that you received in non-high school, those weightings, and the points that you received in high school and those weightings, and add it up for each category to determine how much progress did you make towards your overall target as a district.
So the 34 and the 55%, that's encompassed?
Yes.
And that's a relative, it's a benchmark to our own performance?
To our own targets,
Gotcha.
yes.
And then the weight is just different because 2024 is more current than, okay, great, thank you.
Member Gailey?
Good job on your presentation. A lot of this data, I have to reflect back to when we first hired Dr. Alvarez, and she said that even though we're down the bottom last year, like really, really low, she pointed out what you're talking about, that there was, you know, like if we could get every student and we could just move them up, like you were pointing out, Mr. Dugan, Member Dugan, is like that 10%, 10 points, if we could identify them and move forward. And I really think that Dr. Alvarez has followed through with what she said would happen this year. We're not like way up, and we're still struggling, and we're not saying that we are. But that change that she promised us has been made, in my opinion. And I have been working with data from DESE for, wait a minute, wait for it, 93, 2003, 2013, right, and 2023, a lot of years. And as a lead science teacher at one of the middle schools, it is not easy to increase those 2 points or 10 points in data, depending on who's coming in your school. But I have noticed, as I took the time, I think it was this morning, to go through all the data for all the schools in Lynn, and as I was looking through it, something glaring came out to me, and I don't know if we maybe should look into this, as elementary math. Is that program, that curriculum that we brought in, is it actually achieving what we want? And I would like that to be looked into if that's possible. And that's all I really have to say. Kudos to all those hardworking teachers, staff members doing their job, and we're gonna make it. We're gonna, wait a minute, let me ask the expert. How many points do you think we need to go up this year to get us even further? Maybe 20 schools or 22 schools?
So I think it's relative as well. As you think about the individual school rankings, they're not just ranked within our school district, they're ranked relative to how other schools performed across the state. And so I think with the efforts that we are making, the leadership team that we have here, the amazing leaders, our principals that are here are even not represented, and of course our teachers and our families, with the coordinated efforts, with a clear strategic plan, with those coordinated efforts, that if we continue on the path that we are, that we will see fewer schools requiring assistance. While I don't have specific numbers, I do believe in the work that is happening and the leadership that we do have.
So do we have any kinds of number, Dr. Alvarez?
Not at this time. We're going to work on an algorithm to predict, but we will have that shortly.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to thank all the teachers, all the principals, all of our students for demonstrating that you can shine and who you really are, the brilliant humans that you are, and all of the administrators and staff that supported this increase. And we are definitely headed in the right direction. So I'm very proud of all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the presentation, Dr. Shorter, and thank you, Dr. Alvarez. I want to just echo that we clearly have a lot of work to do, and it's also clear that we're doing that work, and we have a wonderful team doing it. And I am incredibly grateful to all our educators and whole education team, and you know, most of all to our students. These numbers obviously represent some tremendous amount of effort with thousands of students and some in lots of different circumstances, and you know, we're privileged to be able to take this bird's eye view of an incredible amount of work that happens, and glad to see that the progress is happening and that we're heading in the right direction. So that's great.
And of course, thank you, all of our school committee members, and I hope Member Satterwhite's listening from home. We are grateful for your support and for continuing to push us to improve every single day, and reminding us that we are here to serve for students. So thank you for that. Our next presentation is the superintendent's evaluation. So the documents, all of the documents that correlate to this presentation are going to be posted on the website, and all of the links will be accessible as well for all of the documents, because there are many links within the document that you can click on for the reference. So first I'm going to share with everyone the 3 goals that were agreed upon, and these are goals that are based on the new superintendent's induction program, which I'm grateful to for all of their support, especially my coach, Dr. Meg Mayo Brown, who you've all met, you met last year. So the first goal agreed upon was the effective entry direction setting for school improvement. The requirements are really that by early spring, the district would have a broad agreement from key stakeholder groups about the district's most critical needs, the strategies and the goals that would address them effectively, and the measures that would be used to assess progress. And so when we talk about assessment and assessing progress, those key actions and benchmarks were really structured as follows. So one was the review of instructional design. The second was structured tiered supports in all of the standards, which are instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community, and professional culture. And the third was to develop and refine systems for those 4 categories. So I'll share with you just a summary of some of those key actions. So a thorough review of all of instructional high-quality materials was conducted to ensure equitable practices and ensure implementation and progress monitoring of assessment. This included observation of rigor in learning environments, pedagogy, methods to deliver instruction to all learners. An analysis was conducted to design tiered supports for MTSS, develop the data department, and the systems to support school sites through a new data dashboard and open architects, which we just shared. The data meetings with principals that are currently happening. And additionally, we reviewed, so we started them last year with principals in a sort of a different format. And this year we've continued to do deeper learning around the actual data that we have received. And additionally, we reviewed academics, attendance, social emotional learning procedures for tier 1, 2, and 3, and determined if the implementation and resources were appropriate. An evaluation of structural supports led to the development of policy reviews that were successful with school committee approval of 10 policies, which, again, thank you to the school committee. 10 policies was, a hefty task, but necessary, because all of those were student-facing policies that had been hindering progress for some students. So those were effectively, and then in the aftermath of the approval, really looking at what are the administrative procedures that need to take place to ensure that there was equity across implementation with the policy in all of our schools. So that work took place, and there are still some policies that we're refining the administrative procedures for. But that was really an important piece of ensuring that the policy is executed the way it was intended, and that it's not different and a different student experience at different schools. We also had a process of data cycles, and we continued to lead professional development in collaboration with part of the process of the Harvard Strategic Data Project, district professional development of DataWise, which we began and continue to work on with our principals. They're currently in the process of also going through, as well as our district leadership. And that is an 8-step model that improves teaching and learning through evidence-based research. So we wanted to make sure that in addition to all of the resources we already had, that we had a common way of approaching those 8 steps in which we look at the data the evidence, and then go through a cycle of progress monitoring and then realignment when necessary. So this is just a summary of what I shared with you. And so some of the artifacts and all of this will be up on the website, and you'll be able to actually, I know school committee members were given a very large packet of materials, but all of these are digital, in digital form, and you'll be able to, it's public and everyone will be able to access them to review and ask any questions. So first was the final draft of the 85-day transition period that I did with Deputy Deb Ruggiero. Then there was the equity in action, the equitable student outcomes entry plan that I presented last October. Then we completed the LPS strategic plan is really linked to that, so I put that underneath there. We have the academics, MTSS, and tier resources. We're currently in the process of completing the MTSS resource list for attendance, as well as social emotional learning, and then creating a chart and a graphic really for all of our educators to be able to see where the intersecting right categories are and what is what should be used and when. How do we scaffold? When do we move back from that? And so I think it'll be a great resource. Where also the academics team is putting together a handbook at this time that elaborates on the process of multi-tiered systems of support. Following that, there was a extensive review by the curriculum team of the program of studies. That is also linked there. And that continues to evolve as we look at our offerings and for academics. So that will continue to be updated and brought to share with school committee members for your information and update. And then there's, of course, our Student Opportunity Act plan, including the last revisions that were submitted in May. As you recall, we also conducted a circuit breaker audit, which now Dr. Colella continues to monitor and adjust the operation of the SPED department. And Mr. Kevin McHugh, in collaboration with her, to ensure that we are following through for all of the reimbursements, whether they're out of district or in district. There, I'm sharing next the timeline of conversion process. Mr. McHugh and the budgeting team had started the budgeting method to AlloView and the conversion process. And so I just wanted to share, they started that in July, and here's the timeline in which we anticipate we will be going live by December 1st. So that will facilitate a transparent budgeting process and allow us to not only make some decisions that really support and align with what our principals need. It will create a system where we're budgeting by school needs, as well as a formula for each of the programmatic needs that exist within student groups. The second goal was maintaining momentum during the transition for district improvement. And what that meant was really keeping the district moving forward during this year's transition in leadership by working with principals and other district leaders to ensure that meaningful progress is made on critical district and school goals. There were several categories to this. One was operational efficiency, looking at systems and structures to in some cases, develop them, in some cases, review them and refine them, and in some cases, operationalize them, depending on the state of where they were. The other was really looking at teacher and staff development and continuing to, and so moving away from just vendor professional development of resources to evolving in a process to really look at pedagogy and the delivery. How are teachers teaching? What do they need to do the how am I teaching versus what am I teaching? We trust our teachers as professionals, and we know that the resources that they have is the vehicle to teach the standard. And so really, what do they need as far as staff development is concerned? And we'll continue to do that throughout this year as well. The social emotional learning and diversity, equity, and inclusion portions of this are really working in collaboration with the SEL team, all of the clinicians, establishing a data protocol to collect data so that we can make better decisions about placements and the ratios that actually exist of student contact versus hours of contact. Because one of the things that we found was that we can't set schedules necessarily, right? With we have caseloads, but it's difficult to set schedules when we're not certain if a clinician can stick to that exact schedule on any given day because a student may be in crisis or in need of additional hours of support. So we're looking at it both ways to see what it is that the clinicians are in need of to be not only supported, but what is the accurate record keeping for that, which we were struggling with a year ago. The DEI portion of this is really about continuing to expand the equity goals that we've set as a district. And we learn something every day, right? They're not only goals, but we have a plan for the entire, month by month of the targets that we need to hit, and ensure that we're supporting our students, that we're supporting teachers and staff in a number of ways. And we're currently working with Dr. Darnisa Amante-Jackson and Dr. Lee Title, who are both equity strategists. And so they really are going to help us continue to build out the plan and do training for the executive leadership team. The next phase will be for principals. And then the next phase will be for cohorts of teachers. We have parent and community engagement, which is really focused around a number of things. So increasing the number of translation resources, which significantly, the need for that was significant from one year to the next. And as well as ensuring that all of our legal documents were translated, right, by translators and not just bilingual staff, which legal documents must be done by translators. In the parent and community engagement piece as well is supporting our principals, right, to ensure that they have the resources to host their families and parents, that they have the staff to engage with them, with our family community liaisons, to do a number, like they had many requests, right? And when they came to budget, not this spring, but the year prior in spring, around some of the needs that they had with regards to parent and community engagement. Innovation and improvement, in addition to just putting together that team and developing that team out, was really one of the major undertakings of the team was designing the first phase of the STEAM Academy, which took almost the entire year. And so now they're going into phase 2, and also we've been looking at like what's the development of the actual physical facility to ensure that the instruction that we've planned for can take place. Aside from that, in innovation, we did apply for a federal grant, which I'll share. I know we've been waiting to hear, but the Department of Education releases on Monday, September 30th. So we will have more information and updates on that, and hopefully we'll have some wonderful news to share. And really looking at projects that we can currently do, and in planning that, how do we bring high technology and artificial intelligence into our classrooms? The innovation team has developed a proposal to now start with the elementary schools, and then we'll scale to the middle and high schools. With budget and resource allocation, again, one of the major needs for our district was really, in a budget the size of our school districts, we need the transparency and to be able to, for any department really, to be able to access, and although we will continue to communicate with the Munis system, which is what the city is on, the Allaview will give us the actual live system, which we absolutely need. And then, of course, student achievement. Dr. Shorter went through a detailed presentation this evening on all of the significant improvements towards our goals and our targets. And, I think that certainly is very telling of all of the hard work that all of our instructional staff has put into this past year. So really in terms of the key actions, looking at district accelerated benchmarks, those were the goals that I set in the entry plan last October. That's also online and available. And then the addition of 3 new departments, which was innovation and grants management, data assessment and accountability, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Some of the key accomplishments we mentioned were the 3 schools that exited the requiring assistance or intervention status, which were Harrington, Hood, and Druitt's, which we're very proud of. 12 schools overall made the significant improvement towards their accountability targets. We also had a 3% increase in all staff of color this past year. That was significant for our district. The SPED team took IEP compliance from 67% in August of 2023 to 96% in May. So, there was a successful revision of the school committee approval of 10 policies, and those were the athletic eligibility high school transfer policy, attendance, absences, and excuses policy, where the D- was removed for students that had the absences, the graduation requirements policy, the health education policy, the school meals policy, the student dress code that applied to the secondary students, the maximum age for school admission and attendance policy, and protective sweep, student searches, questionings, and interrogations policy, which was really significant. We did that very early at the start of 2023 school year, and we have seen the difference in the tone and the behavior of our students. They are expecting of themselves, right, what they should be expecting, nothing but excellence. And those students, again, that end up in a situation where they make a mistake, we are also using restorative practice and encouraging, right, outside services and going through all of the steps that they need to be supported. And then, of course, the technology policies that were revised. We really looked at the literacy, the data literacy piece, and implemented a framework towards data literacy. And so there was also a link in there that gives explicit information about it. It's very, very lengthy, but it really is for building a data-driven district that prioritizes data quality, capacity building, and fostering a culture to inform programs, policies, practice, and placement. And that results in focused improvements in student achievement. And I think we're starting to see the beginning of that. We still have a lot of work to do as a district collectively, but we are certainly seeing those first outcomes. We worked very hard to cultivate a culture that centers all voices by implementing student climate surveys designed for students to reflect on their social environment and experiences. We piloted that, and we're going to continue to expand that to all of our students this year, to just do some longitudinal data collection and address the results of those surveys. And those were mostly around belonging within their schools. And so we started with those 6 schools in the winter, and we're going to extend that to all schools in multiple languages. So that will certainly be some data that we can study and make significant improvements around. We also looked at fostering some strategic university partnerships, a partnership with Northeastern University to support 2 data analytics graduate students for a 6-week project that helped us look at data and make decisions around that data. That was focused on data quality and capacity. And I hope that we can continue to work not just with Northeastern, but all universities, right? And university students that are able to learn and also support us with our data needs in these types of projects. We completed phase 1, as I mentioned earlier, of the design of the STEAM Academy, which is intended to have grades 6 through 12. We submitted the Magnet Schools Assistance Program grant in May. That was an extensive and lengthy document that would support the building out of the STEAM Academy, classical and English high schools. We also formalized the organizational leadership structure with some realignments, working with LSAA and in agreement with memorandums just to better streamline and realign the structure so that everything that lives in academics reports to academics, and that our teachers and leaders that oversee MLE and special education do not live outside of the academics, and that those educators aren't the ones that find out later that they needed to have information or professional development or resources that were connected to academics. In terms of financial acumen and budget, there were a number of courses that they gave us throughout the new superintendent's program, but also some mass webinars that needed to that are part of the requirements for new superintendents. And then also there's a link here to all of our school committee agendas, reports, and minutes. These all have active links as well. We have all of our district and school improvement plans up, the recruiting and hiring and retention analysis for everyone's review, external reviews and audits that were conducted. There's the actual circuit breaker document, some of the executive leadership strategic planning notebook notes, district and school improvement plans, the retention, I don't know why retention analysis is here twice, but I will take that out, and 96% teacher staffed at opening of school. And we have lost a few teachers since the opening, but we remain with an active recruitment plan to ensure. And so when we opened school, I believe we had 53 openings of student-facing teachers, right? Like not other instructional staff, that those positions were open. And that, I believe, was one of the highest numbers of actual staffed that we've had in several years. Lowest number. Well, highest number of professionals, lowest number of, right, okay. We need to follow Dr. Shorter's instruction about higher means lower. external reviews and audits again, and ELT agendas. The last goal was participating in the new superintendent's induction program, which is a lovely experience. There is a lot of homework and a lot of reading, and there is an all-day session that we participate in addition to hours of coaching with our individual coaches. And truly, with the colleagues that I've met there and the networking of supporting each other as new superintendents, it has been an incredible experience. All of the assignments that were required and outlined in the entry plan that they provided to me and the reports were all completed. There's also an active link so you can see what all of those assignments and readings are. And I just added, for your information, the theory of action behind what we call NISIP. And so the key actions around this was attending content sessions provided. It is it's a day full of sessions and learning, and also meeting with my coach at least monthly, and that's 6 hours a month that we met every month. And so the artifacts around that are the entry plan, the meeting dates, a letter from my coach in that link where it says E. Alvarez NISIP participation, coaching with Dr. McMayo Brown each month. And I also participated in the BIPOC Superintendents Network for DESE and the Racial Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion for District Leaders for DESE as well. And I will take any questions if you have them at this time.
Before we get into questions, I'm going to speak to next steps about what we're going to do here. But, okay. There's quite a question about the presentation or whatever, but, okay.
Well, my question was about the
Next steps.
procedure we're going to use for
All right.
Oh,
So,
the process.
yeah, so thank you, Dr. Alvarez, for the presentation. You should have received on Monday, September 9th, an email from Danielle from my team laying out the process here. So we all got these documents, as you recall, September 12th. So we've had them for some time. We got the presentation this evening. I want to say that, taking a step back, this is clearly a really important function of the school committee to do the superintendent review, and so I appreciate everyone's help as we and efforts as we go to do this. I think it's also really critical that we do it, do a thorough review, that we're effective, and we're also timely. For this to function, we need to quickly turn this around so we get the goals for the next year, so that we stay on track to be able to do this. And so we've tried to make sure that we've made the information really available, but there is going to be a turnaround here as we think about getting into the next set of goals. Because that's the calendar we're on as a school year, right? Like we're going to get ready for the next STEMcast and so on and so forth. I also want to say that you recall that we selected these goals together at the outset of Dr. Alvarez's superintendency, and we selected goals and not indicators. And you remember that DESE has this very involved framework for superintendent evaluation. That's goals and indicators. These are the goals, and we're going to evaluate against the goals. We will select indicators for the next review cycle, and we were told that that's the DESE's preferred approach to new superintendents. It's really a 2-year evaluation cycle essentially for a starting superintendent. So this first year we're just doing the goals, and the next year we'll do the goals and the indicators, and that will look more familiar to what we've done in the past with the indicators for each of the standards. There's 4 different standards, and then there's like 20-something indicators, and we pick a subset of that. So we'll do that for the next year. So that's coming. So for next steps for this cycle, we are asking each of you to review and evaluate the superintendent on these 3 goals that you just presented on by October 1st. So, like I said, a fairly quick turnaround. And what will happen is that you will, review, as you already have been, you received this a couple weeks ago, all the information, and you will, based on the artifacts, use a rating system for each goal of exceeded, met, significant progress, some progress, or did not meet. So there's one of these 5 categories for each of the 3 goals. We will then compile all of our respective evaluations into one composite evaluation, and we'll do that very transparently. So basically, we'll just have I think we set out a blank form. We'll have everyone's name, each of the goals, and we'll just fill in what you rated for the goals, and then we will then share back that composite evaluation on the October 10th meeting. We'll ask you to vote that in, and that'll be the official evaluation. Also on October 10th, Dr. Alvarez will be presenting her goals for 24-25. So not a moment's rest. We will go straight into the review and adoption of goals for the next cycle, so that we stay on track here and start off on that good habit of doing timely reviews, so that we have a positive feedback cycle. And that, like I said, that those goals for this coming year will not only be the custom district goals that we have here, they'll also be the indicators. We'll say we want Dr. Alvarez, we'd like Dr. Alvarez, and we do this with her. Like, she'll say, these are what I am proposing to focus on in the coming year. And typically, you select a handful of indicators across each of the different four standards. Questions? Okay. Great. Well, I think we obviously have a lot of information to review here, and we appreciate everyone turning this around. If you have questions as you are doing it, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself or Danielle. Again, it's a really critical role for the district, and we appreciate everyone's help in fulfilling it. All right, next we have field trip requests. What's the recommendation of the superintendent?
The recommendation is to approve a field trip request for students from classical, English, and tech to travel to Germany, Austria, and Poland from July 1st to July 12th.
Make a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
The second field trip request is to approve English High to travel to Rome, Italy from June 28th to July 5th.
Make a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Dr. Alvarez?
Yeah.
Mr. Haddad had a statement that he asked.
Please,
if,
yep.
Of course.
We could read. About the student trip to Rome, June 2025. Good evening. Please accept my apologies for not being able to be there in person. Since 2013, I have run 6 successful trips with EF Tours to Rome, Greece, and Paris, bringing anywhere from 10 to 35 students. The trip is specifically promoted to students who are or have taken Latin or ancient Greek, as the focus of the trip is history, mythology, and culture of the Greeks and Romans, though any student with a strong interest is allowed to sign up. As I've done with all my previous trips, I will hold 4 pre-trip meetings for travelers and caregivers to go over safety and security measures, packing and currency tips, important trip details, and to learn some Italian. My trips have always been safe, educational, and full of opportunities to open our students up to another culture. On this trip, our students will visit the Colosseum, the Rome Forum, the Spanish Steps, Pompeii, the island of Capri, Trevi Fountain, and the Vatican. The trip costs approximately $4,000 and includes round-trip airfare, all breakfasts and dinners, hotel stays, and entry into archaeological sites and museums. In addition, due to my consistent and excellent work with EF Tours, they have awarded me a $5,000 scholarship to help our students pay for the trip. The first 10 students to sign up have been offered $500 off of their trip price. The trip will occur from June 28th through July 5th, so there should be no missing of school days. Finally, please note that EF Tours offers free travel to adult chaperones for every 6 students. This has always helped to ensure that there is a 1-to-6 ratio of students to chaperones, which in turn helps keep the students safe and the trip to run smoothly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Did we vote on that?
I think we did.
Yep, sorry.
I just want to mention the six members, so.
Next year.
No, it's good to have the context, and we so appreciate this faculty members' efforts here to create these opportunities, so thank you. Vote to approve dual language grade 4 report card.
Can we have,
I'm just here for questions. It's the standard procedure that we've followed. I'm happy to answer any questions, but these are the grade 4 standards that are unique to dual language, particularly the literacy standards. I'm here for any questions.
sure, Amanda, could you come to the mic, please? Thank you.
As I was saying, I'm just here to answer any questions. I don't typically do a presentation for these report cards. We followed the standard procedure, and this is just as we roll up dual language, we need a unique report card for dual language to reflect Spanish literacy development in particular.
Yeah, Member Daly.
So I have a question about the report card. I don't see enough, this is very subjective. I look at our regular ed, and it has numbers with it, so it's like grades, letter grades, so people can understand where they are. Are they actually achieving proficiency? I don't know if we have any data from 3rd grade yet. I don't even know if 3rd grade is doing well. And I've been asking this question since dual language start. Where are we in the data? How do we know we're being successful? And this report card, to me, I think needs work, and I think we need to know about, you know, the data from MCAS from 2024. How was the 3rd grade class? What are the access tests? And like, I would think that the school committee would like to have a presentation of Harrington and Connery and how they are data-wise. Are they successful? So for that reason, I'd like to table this, and when she brings back the data, we can get that approved.
I would be happy to share that information. I did share in January of 24 and January of 23 updates on our data that we had at that point. I have typically come before the school committee every January to share that data from Harrington and Connery. I'd be happy to come earlier. We saw, in terms of access, greater than average scaled score growth in the dual language program. And I know that Dr. Shorter, she's not here anymore, she conducted a preliminary review of MCAS scores across both programs. I don't know if we want to share that here, or if we'd prefer to have Dr. Shorter share the preliminary reviews that were done.
Well, we can certainly, if Member Gately wants to table it and we can prepare that, we can add it to the next agenda.
Sure, my only concern is just that there is no dual language report card at the time, so I don't know.
Could I just speak for 1 minute? So the
data that you're referring to is a whole nother conversation, but the report card functions in being able to communicate with families, how students are performing in the classroom. We're shifting the report cards that you're referring to, Member Gately, for 3 to 5. We're actually shifting to a standards-based report card that is going to look similar to those dual language report cards. We shifted to a K-2 standards-based report card. So we're actually moving in that direction. That is a standards-based way to report out to the students' families where they are in regards to the progression towards mastery of that standard. I just don't want to confuse the two conversations. Data is separate from reporting on how students are performing in the classroom. It is a worthy conversation to have, but it doesn't impact report cards.
Eventually, it aligns to a letter grade or to numbers.
So in a
Like when you
standards
take
based,
MCAS or you have your access test, eventually there's an alignment.
So standards-based report cards are not based on letter grade. They're based on just like the MCAS, meeting or exceeding expectation, not meeting or exceeding expectation, below expectation, which is why the whole state is moving towards standard-based report cards so that families understand where their child is performing by grade, by subject, by standard, so they can see and expect and predict how they will do on the MCAS.
one other thing I just don't want to lose sight of that Ms. Campbell referenced is that the report cards do need to be in place for the students. So it's a timely matter that we do want to discuss.
Can we just approve this, and then if we need to amend it, is that doable?
Mm-hmm.
Or, I mean, whatever you want to
If
do.
it's debatable, a motion,
There's not been a second on the motion,
right,
Yeah.
so.
so there's nothing to debate. There was currently made a motion to the table. It has not been seconded.
Second.
On the motion to table.
I second on the motion that Sean just.
So Sean, what was your?
I didn't make a motion yet. I was,
Okay.
but I will make a motion. But we can go back and if we need to fix this, or is that?
Well, I would imagine if it's timely, then once a report card goes out, we can't amend that one, but you could amend the future
Right.
ones. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. All right.
Yep.
But there currently isn't a report card in place. We need to
Correct.
Yep.
approve this one.
Yep. Member Dugan, yeah.
If I could just add something too, these would be obviously individual students where the data would more reflect the school, I think, is what you're thinking, Member Gately. So I think they're two separate things in my mind. Do you know what I mean? Whereas the data is the whole third grade at Harrington or the whole third grade at Connery, whereas these are individual students. And I would I mean, just based on my own experience, you know, what I do on a daily basis, sitting down with parents, this gives them a frame of reference that, okay, this is where your student's at. This is what you know, when the teachers sit down with them, this is what they need to do to get to the next level, you know. So this is an individual thing, in my mind. That's just my opinion on it. But, yeah.
It looks very subjective to me.
Agreed, yeah, but I think report cards can be.
They are, yeah, report cards are subjective.
No, I understand
Yeah.
that they are subjective, but there's also data on numbers or grades attached to them that parents understand. Your child meets this, there's no proof that the child meets it.
So what you're bringing up is actually a national debate
Yes.
about, there's a lot of conversation, a lot of research around what is a standards-based versus a grade-based type of reporting. There are two different systems of reporting out on how a student is doing, and they have pros and cons to both. We're moving towards the standards-based though, because it delineates pieces of that standard so the families can understand better specifically what the learning is, because a letter grade is sort of comprehensive of the entire subject matter versus, as you can see there, it's delineated by skill and pieces of the standard that the students are learning, if that makes sense. So it's communicative to the families.
Yeah, and if I could just add a clarifying question, the families are getting quantitative data in other contexts.
Correct.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
each of those standards has data within the classroom.
Right.
That, and Mr. Dugan, I'm sure you'll corroborate with this, that when you're meeting with parents about progress towards the standards that they're working on, you're showing them data of assessments they've done, skills that they've mastered, showing them that data within a classroom, not standardized testing necessarily. Like, this is more classroom-based and how they're doing and independently applying the skills that are listed on the report, which are the standards.
I'm going to make the motion to move forward with this. We can always come back and, amend it if there's particular standards or anything we need to do, but I'm going to move forward with that motion.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos? Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
No.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Member Reed?
Yes.
Member Satterwhite, absent. Mayor Nicholson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do we want to amend the agenda to move the executive session to the end?
I make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let's have it. All right, superintendent's report.
So I want to greet all of our students, families, and staff this evening. I want to extend a warm welcome to all our returning and new students, families, and staff. This year, we continue our commitment to fostering an inclusive and equitable learning environment for every student. Our diverse community is one of our greatest strengths, and we are focused on ensuring that all students, regardless of their background or circumstances, have access to the resources and support they need to thrive. Equity remains at the center of our mission, and we are dedicated to closing opportunity gaps, elevating every voice, and creating a space where every student feels valued. We recognize that achieving true equity requires ongoing reflection and action. Our educators and staff are deeply committed to using cultural responsive teaching methods, adopting policies that promote fairness, and removing barriers that have historically hindered some of our students. We are also strengthening our partnerships with families and community organizations to better understand the needs of our students and find meaningful solutions to support their success. By working together, we can create a learning environment where each student has an opportunity to reach their full potential, irrespective of their race, socioeconomic status, or other factors that may impact their educational experience. As we embark on this new school year, I encourage all of us to embrace the diversity that enriches our school community, to actively participate in building more inclusive, equitable future. Let us stand together to ensure that every student feels seen, supported, and empowered to succeed. I look forward to the year ahead, confident that with your partnership, we can continue to make our schools a place of opportunity, growth, and belonging for all. This year, we have a focused and clear commitment to a core belief that all students can achieve mastery of grade-level tasks, articulate and execute a shared understanding of the larger instructional vision, district strategic plan, and connection to priority areas, and that we focus on equity and excellence lies at the heart of everything that we do. We have shared already in the district strategic plan that our instructional priorities are that LPS students will possess academic skills to be globally competitive by meeting and exceeding grade level expectations in reading, math, science, and social studies. They will possess communication, biliteracy, multilingualism, and social emotional skills to be globally competitive. That they will also have access to experience success in a wide range of advanced coursework that prepares them to navigate a rapidly changing world, as well as working with our students, families, and staff to experience the district and their schools as places of inclusion and belonging, and that will close equity gaps in access and achievement for students who are today furthest from opportunity. As a district, we have made significant progress and changes over the past year. The MCAS accountability data demonstrates that 12 schools made significant progress towards meeting their targets. We continue to refine our instructional practices and pedagogy. However, we want to celebrate the following 3 schools: Druids Elementary, again, Harrington Elementary, and Hood Elementary. Our overall MCAS assessment data showed those mixed results, highlighting both progress areas for growth and areas for growth. But notably, during this first year since the pandemic, with overall improvement in science proficiency, including a 10% increase in K-5 and a 3% rise in high school. Through middle school proficiency declined 6%, our math results show a slight improvement in K-5 by 1%, no change in high school, and a 1% decline in middle school. Our ELA proficiencies declined for K-8, while high school performance remained steady. But these results present clear opportunities to continue improving. As we begin this new school year, I want to express my gratitude to each of you, students, teachers, staff, and families, for your dedication, hard work, and unwavering commitment to our school community. Together, we will continue to create a vibrant, supportive, and inspiring environment where everyone thrives. I'm confident that with your partnership and passion, we will achieve great things in this year ahead. Thank you for all you do, and I look forward to an exciting and successful year. The future of Lynn is brilliant. And then the rest of this very lengthy document are just department updates for not just school committee members, but these also go posted on the website live for all parents and students, teachers to read updates from each department. Following that communication, we have an MCAS press release that will go out that reviews, it's in your packet, it will reviews all of the data that we shared today in the presentations. And there will be a press release that also, you have a copy of the letter that was directed to Commissioner Russell Johnston directly from me regarding the very strong opposition that I stated in terms of having any consideration of an expansion of seats in the charter schools. And I documented a lot of our research and what researchers across the country, especially those that we've been working with, have specifically stated that has contributed to learning loss in the last 18 months. There is an overall decline in ELA across the Commonwealth. It is not specific to just our students. And I think it's important for our students and teachers and families, all our educators, to acknowledge that, right? And acknowledge that we are on a path of recovery and growth, and that we are, with the plans very detailed plans that we have for the future success ahead, that we will implement them and we'll continue to monitor those. But I was very clear about the 3 things that I was asking for consideration. And just to share those, was the first one was to reevaluate districts that are ranked in the lowest 10%, to suppress the accountability percentile ranking for urban schools that are eligible for the SOA, and also to hold harmless from charter school applications or expansion all districts receiving SOA funds until the 7 years of SOA have been implemented. And so with that, I know all of our community is supportive of the same mission as we continue to improve, and we need the opportunity and the time to do that. So there'll be a press release in addition to the letter that will also go out. That's just basically recapping what the letter says for the public.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
Do we have to?
Yeah, I'll read it. It's for the,
No, but the minutes, the other minutes, do we have to do anything?
no, we do that in executive session.
Okay, we do it in there, okay.
Yeah. It'll be request for executive session to approve the minutes for September 12th, 2024. Discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining relative to the Lynn School Administrators Association. Discussion of these matters involves strategy in open meeting which may have a detrimental effect on and compromise the bargaining position of the whole body. And contract negotiations for non-union personnel and deputy superintendents.
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Member Reed?
Yes.
Member Satterwhite? Absent. Mayor Nicholson?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. How old is she now? 9 months? Wow.
All right, is there a motion to return to regular session?
Make a motion to return to regular session.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately? Member Pena?
Yes.
Member Reed?
Yes.
Member Satterwhite, absent. Mayor Nicholson?
Yes. There were 2 votes that we took in executive session that we need to approve, one of which was to approve this agreement with the LSAA for a Director of Education Quality position.
What's the motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Roll call?
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Member Reed?
Yes.
Member Satterwhite, absent. Mayor Nicholson?
Yes. The next was a motion to approve contract negotiations with the deputy superintendents to implement a 3.5% cost of living adjustment.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Effective July 1, 2024.
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Member Reed?
Yes.
Member Satterwhite, absent. Mayor Nicholson?
Yes. See no further business?
Motion to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, guys.
gave me half a chance.
policy